The Phillies make a major impact move to the back end of their bullpen, signing Brad Keller. Another move that I absolutely love for the Phils, and I'll tell you why on today's episode.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for joining us today. We come to you as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network. You might know me from some of my other work in the sports talk space. I've been on air over at 97.5 The Fanatic, doing sports talk radio here in Philadelphia for over 6 years. I've been a credentialed Philadelphia Phillies media member for the past 4 seasons, and this is now my 4th year as the host of Locked On Phillies, your #1 place for daily Philadelphia Phillies content. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. The Phils go out and get a righty reliever, a high-leverage arm, coming off one of the best years of his professional career. Brad Keller, you are a Philadelphia Philly, and I love so much about this move. We're going to break down everything you need to know about the Phillies' new high-leverage righty as we start the episode. Later on, we're going to talk about Dave Dombrowski's most recent comments about the outfield being pretty much set after the signing of Adolis Garcia. People didn't like that very much. I've got thoughts, so we will discuss that as well. And then what's left for Philly to do? What does the team still need, as we've seen a flurry of moves for the Fightins? We will talk about that later on in the episode as well. But let's break down Brad Keller, hard-throwing righty reliever. And I love this because in the modern day of baseball, if you're going to have a high-leverage reliever, I would much rather them throw upper 90s. And Brad Keller's a guy who's got a fastball sitting around 97. That's pretty darn good. It's no Jhoan Duran, but who really is. And his numbers that he put up last year are very, very impressive. He's only 30 years old. So it is for Brad Keller a multi-year deal as well. 2 years, $22 million. Not a crazy amount, right? 11 per. That shows you, though, that he's one of the higher-end bullpen arms out there. It's a relatively similar contract to what you've seen some other of the, not closers, but like good back-end relievers get in the market. So I don't think the Phils overpaid or anything for this. Last year, here is what Keller put up in Chicago for the Cubs. In 69 2/3 innings pitched, he only allowed 45 hits. He pitched to a 2.07 ERA, a .962 whip. He had 22 walks to 75 strikeouts. I mean, so the strikeout stuff, hey, would you like to see that get a little bit better? 75 strikeouts, 69 2/3 innings pitched. I mean, sure. The swing and miss stuff, I would like to see a little bit more of from him. The whiff percentage is kind of the only thing that shows up on his Baseball Savant page, where it's just like, okay, that's not a plus thing. He's in the 62nd percentile in whiff percentage. But he has one of the best expected ERAs in baseball. He has one of the best expected batting averages in baseball. When you look at deeper into the stats, like the fastball velo is up there with the top arms in the sport. The average exit velo is down there with some of the best arms in the sport. I mean, this guy is just a really good right-handed high leverage reliever. And the Phillies needed this because you have Jhoan Duran, who's going to lock down the 9th inning for you all year long. If you're soured on Duran, I mean, he was first team all MLB as a reliever this past year. He's as good as it gets. I'll fight you tooth and nail if anyone's down on Jhoan Duran right now. But then your next highest leverage righty was Orion Kerkering. And that's not good enough. I mean, especially after what you saw this past year. No one's going to feel comfortable with him throwing high leverage innings. He allowed a lot of inherited runners to score. He obviously had the gaffe in the NLDS that we're all going to remember forever, which sucks, but it is what it is at this point. But you have Jose Alvarado, and now you have Brad Keller, and those guys are kind of the joint setup men, depending on who you get in the 8th inning. But could you just imagine, right? Let's say, and the Phillies have gotten more innings out of their starting pitching than pretty much any team in baseball over the past couple of seasons. But let's just say you have a day where you go out and you get 5 innings out of your starting pitcher, and you end up with a lead somehow, and you don't want to stretch that guy out too much or whatever the case may be. Now, your 6th inning could be Matt Strahm. Your 7th inning could be Brad Keller. Your 8th inning could be Jose Alvarado, and your 9th inning could be Jhoan Duran. And then Orion Kerkering could just throw, I don't know, like a 5th or a 6th inning somewhere and maybe get his confidence back if he remains on the team. Like, there's no more David Robertson coming out of the pen. The other thing that this does for the Phillies is it basically assures, unless, knock on wood, Brad Keller turns into next year's Jordan Romano, which I don't even want to think that thought. And the profile looks totally different for Brad Keller than it did for Jordan Romano, but that's a story for a different day. But you're probably not going to have to go out and attack the bullpen at the trade deadline this year. I mean, you still could, but you already have closer lockdown, 2 high leverage guys that could be set up. Matt Strahm is an all-star caliber lefty out of the bullpen when he's at his best. I know people will tell me over and over and over again, oh, he's stunk in the postseason. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. We'll see what spot he has in the bullpen when we get there. You do have Orion Kerkering, who is somewhat usable. We'll see what goes on there. But if the Phillies don't move off any of these guys via trade this offseason, you have a good-looking bullpen. Banks, Kerkering, Strahm, Keller, Alvarado, and then you'll also throw in, of course, an all-MLB closer in Jhoan Duran. And then you have one more spot maybe for Zach McCamley, who they picked up in the Rule 5 draft. Maybe you look at a situation where, I don't know, Taijuan Walker is a swing guy that you can throw as a long relief guy. Like, there's a lot of ways that you can make that final spot in the bullpen work. But I don't see any of these guys having like a completely terrible year. And I don't see any of these guys going anywhere as of right now via trade, even though we've speculated about that on the podcast. So where does that leave you? Well, it leaves you with a pretty darn good bullpen, which is something the Phillies could not say last year. And I love to see that. So Dave Dombrowski, kudos for this move. Honestly, I wanted Tyler Rogers. I was upset that he signed with the Toronto Blue Jays because I felt like the Phillies were waiting on the reliever market until they could go out and sign JT Realmuto, and then they would attack the relief pitcher market. But apparently the Phillies got to the point where they were like, yeah, we can't really wait on JT to make these other moves. The run on relievers is happening, and the Phillies got a good one. He's not top of the line, right? He's not Edwin Diaz, but you didn't need Edwin Diaz. You have Jhoan Duran already to lock down the back end, and you have some other usable arms. So could the Phillies bullpen be a strength of the team this next year? Could you imagine that? My goodness, it feels like 2024 all over again. And then you let those guys walk. So it's nice also to see that Keller gets a multi-year deal because you have Duran locked down. You're bringing Alvarado back for at least just this year, but then like Kerkering's arbitration eligible. Banks is arbitration eligible. Strahm is in his last year, so that probably won't be a contract extension thing. But you have a couple of these guys locked down for multiple years as well, which is a good thing. So you have some stalwarts in your bullpen that are going to be a part of this organization for a couple years. And that's a good thing to build that chemistry and to get used to what the structure is going to look like. So I really, really do like this move. We'll see if the strikeout stuff comes. Working with Caleb Cotham, who's done a really good job as a Phillies pitching coach. I mean, he may be the most underrated part of this organization, Caleb Cotham, because you see him get guys. Every year there's somebody who takes a big step up, whether it's Jose Ruiz 2 years ago, Tanner Banks this past year, Christopher Sanchez and what he's done starter-wise, Ranger, Luzardo, Wheeler. Like, you have so many pitchers that have developed or exceeded expectations under Caleb Cotham. So I got to believe that a guy like Brad Keller coming in here, you'd only see him get better, right? And he pitched in Chicago for a playoff team in the Chicago Cubs. So it's not like he was doing this for a no-name team that had nothing to play for. It's just he fits so many needs for the Philadelphia Phillies. And it's a beautiful thing that Dave Dombrowski was able to go out and get him. So I love this move. I imagine he's going to be your 7th inning guy just because you're not going to want to always go righty with him and Duran. And I think that 8th inning spot is still Jose Alvarado. But if you face a lefty-heavy team, you might have just gotten your new setup man. And if he is the new setup man or splits time, well, we're going to need to figure out a fun nickname for this bullpen, because the Alvarado, Keller, Duran, that we don't really have Bridge to Lidge in there anywhere like we had with Ryan Madsen. We might need a nickname for Brad Keller. We'll work on that. We got a long offseason to workshop all of that, but the bullpen is finally starting to take shape. Maybe you'll get in like one more guy on a smaller deal, and we'll talk later about what more the Phillies still need to do. But this is another move where I'm like, okay, solid risk-reward balance here and fits a need. And Dave Dombrowski, I kind of like what he's doing, but is he doing enough? And is he going to continue to make moves? The outfield, I like Adolis Garcia. But when Dave Dombrowski said that the outfield's pretty much set, that had me pretty darn worried. And we will talk about whether or not you should believe him as we continue today's episode. First, let's talk about FanDuel, though, because NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. The receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, the momentum flips after a turnover, all of these things. You know how it feels, right? If you've watched football in your life, you can kind of get a feel of, oh, okay, this game is not going well for X team. And betting ahead of the game, you don't really get the feeling of who's showing up that day. That's why live betting with FanDuel is awesome. Not only is the interface sleek and fast and easy to use, so you can get your bets in quickly the second you feel the momentum shifting, but they got all kinds of options, from props to parlays, to over-under, money line, the spread on the game. You don't have to bet them ahead of the game, though you can. You can also bet them live. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Let's talk about Dave Dombrowski's recent comments. He made these yesterday. I'm reacting to them today because we are now in our 3 episodes a week portion of the offseason, but I'd still love for you to be part of our Everydayers Club. You can go ahead and join in by subscribing to the YouTube. Yes, we are available on YouTube, so you can watch the show and listen to the show. It's free and easy to subscribe. It takes like a second to do, and all it's going to do is get you notifications when new episodes are posted. So it helps you out. It also helps us out very much. And if you can't watch the episodes, well, you can also listen. We're available wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're listening in podcast form, I'd love if you could rate and review. All of this stuff really helps us out. It helps more people find Locked On Phillies, and it helps Locked On Phillies find you easier so you never miss any of our great content. Dave Dombrowski might have missed some of our great content, though, because he said yesterday that the outfield is pretty much set. And what exactly does that mean? Well, he went deeper into detail. He said that Adolis Garcia is going to be playing right field. Brandon Marsh and a right-handed bat would be the option in left field, and Justin Crawford would be in center field. And there are a lot of inconsistencies with that plan. So let's start out with what the idea is, and then we'll talk about whether or not you should believe him. Adolis Garcia in right field, great. Plays a lot of games every year. He was an everyday player for the Rangers. He's going to be an everyday player here. I have no issue with that. The power, the fielding, the athleticism, like he can play everyday right field. Very much like Nick Castellanos was doing before they had the whole defensive replacement tiff, and then his bat went completely ice cold at the end of the season. And then they started platooning him and platooning everybody. The season's going to start with Adolis Garcia as the everyday right fielder, it sounds like. And I got no issue with that. But I got an issue with the other 2 spots. Brandon Marsh in left field as part of a platoon. Sure, that works in theory. I like Brandon Marsh as a platoon player, or maybe a 4th outfielder. As an everyday starter, I like him more than most, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, that's good enough for competing with a team like the Dodgers, right? The bar is significantly raised based on what LA has been able to put together over the past couple of seasons. So platoon, sure. Everyday left fielder, I would like to argue yes, but I can't in good faith say that I'm comfortable with that. The problem with this scenario is who's the right-handed bat that is sharing left field with Brandon Marsh? If you say, oh, well, our outfield's pretty much set, does that mean it's Weston Wilson or Otto Kemp? Do you feel good about either of those guys getting regular playing time in left field? I mean, Otto Kemp, I don't know where he is defensively at all. I understand some people close to the team like his offensive profile. And he just had surgery on his kneecap that was messed up that he had throughout the year that he played through. Tough guy to play through that type of injury. So you got to give respect to that. And maybe that's a reason why he wasn't as offensively productive at the major league level as he was down at AAA before getting called up. But I can't just completely bank on that. And I also can't bank on him coming back and recovering immediately to the point where he can be, and every time a lefty's on the mound, he's in left field. I also don't know if he can field out there. Like, that's not a great option as far as a platoon mate. Like, if you platoon Marsh and Garcia, I could see it. And then you had another, like, everyday starting caliber right fielder and then a center fielder. Like, you could make that work. But I'm very iffy on the idea of platooning Brandon Marsh, and I'd assume it would be Otto Kemp in left field this year. And then Justin Crawford playing center field is where this gets really crazy, because the Phillies organization has repeatedly told us they see him as a corner outfielder, not a center fielder at the major league level. That's why every time we've talked about him on the podcast, I've been talking about him as the starting left fielder of the Philadelphia Phillies. And now all of a sudden, Dave Dombrowski thinks he can play center. I'm not saying Dombrowski's wrong, and I'm not going to pretend to know more than the president of baseball operations for this organization. But if you constantly told us left fielder, left fielder, left fielder, or corner outfielder, corner outfielder, corner outfielder, and then one day all of a sudden in the middle of the offseason, yeah, we're going to play him in center. Yeah, you better have a darn good explanation of what changed. Or are you getting forced into this because you don't have any other moves you feel that you can make? That's what this feels like to me. It feels like settling, or it feels like they're trapped into a not great version of an outfield. And the other question that people started asking when he said it was pretty much set is, well, what happens with Harrison Bader then? Is this your admission of, hey, we can't bring Bader back? Because as the offseason has gone on, I've heard more and more people interested in Harrison Bader being brought back to play center field for this team. And I would be in favor of that for the right price and the right expectation. He's not going to be the guy that he was for the final couple months of last season. Like, that was an unreal hot stretch for him. But he's a damn good center fielder. Like, if your outfield is Garcia, Bader, Crawford, with Brandon Marsh as a fourth outfielder to, I don't know, fill in for Garcia, defensive replacement somewhere if you don't like Crawford's defense as much as you thought you would, or just on days someone needs a rest who can play all three outfield positions, then that is a plus outfield. You can win with that outfield. But if it's Crawford in center, Marsh in left, Garcia in right, sure, I don't know what you're getting out of the center field spot from a rookie. We'll see. I like him much better in the corners because it feels to be a much more manageable position for a guy to come up and start playing at the major league level. But who knows? Like, again, Crawford might just be really good, like he was at AAA this past year, and it could all be fine. But then you got a platoon you're starting off the year with, and you probably got a platoon at second with Edmundo Sosa and Bryson Stott, unless you make a change there. It feels like there's a lot of stuff left that Dave Dombrowski can do, especially in the outfield. And now he's saying they're pretty much set. So should we believe him? Well, there's a lot of competing theories about where the Phillies are at right now. I've seen reports that the Phillies are still interested in bringing Harrison Bader back. So then why would the GM say, or president of baseball operations, sorry about that, why would he say, yeah, we're pretty much set if they're also trying to bring back another center fielder? Why would he say that Justin Crawford's going to play center field if Harrison Bader's still on the table? Harrison Bader sounds like he would like to be back in Philadelphia, Has the market gotten too heavy? Well, it doesn't sound like that per recent reports. It doesn't sound like he's getting a 3-year deal. So should we believe Dave Dombrowski? And what does pretty much set mean? That's a very subjective term, right? Or I guess it leaves some wiggle room there. He's not saying this guy's our starter here, this guy's our starter here, this guy's our starter here. He's saying this is how it would set up right now. But I also don't expect him to put all his cards on the table right now, midway through the hand of poker, right? So could the Phillies still go out and re-sign Harrison Bader? I don't think that's off the table. In spite of what Dave Dombrowski said, I don't think that they're just closing the door on that possibility. Now, they could say, hey, we don't think we're going to get him because our offer doesn't seem to be in his market, but who knows what happens with the offseason? Maybe other teams are not in Harrison Bader's market either, and the price ends up coming down. The longer he sits, the better for the Philadelphia Phillies. So every day he's not signed is a good sign for Titans fans. I find it hard to believe that as we sit here on December, whatever day it is, 17th, that Dave Dombrowski is just saying, yeah, we're good. Like we're all done. Hands are clean, job finished. Let's roll into spring training. Like if he does do that, I'm going to be very upset because this outfield as is not good enough for what the Phillies want to accomplish. I don't think, in my opinion. I'd be disappointed with the outfield that he put together this offseason, and you would have to go try and find an outfielder at the deadline. And that would be another prospect moved or another couple of prospects moved, and you're just paying more money. It would be a mess. That's if you believe him. So while I saw a bunch of people freaking out on social media, how can he say this? Dave Dombrowski's an idiot. He's not doing enough. I'm very disappointed with the offseason. Well, the offseason isn't over. You're not disappointed with the offseason. You're disappointed with what he said. Have people running front offices lied before? Yes. Have you seen either of the most recent 2 moves for the Philadelphia Phillies coming? No. No one was putting out jersey swaps of Adolis Garcia or Brad Keller in Phillies uniforms before these moves got done. There's stuff that we don't see. There's stuff that we don't know. So I'm not going to jump the gun and be like Dombrowski is a failure again this offseason. I'm just going to say if it does play out the way he's saying, that will be my take. But I reserve the right to exercise patience. And I think you should too. There will be plenty of time to complain once things are set in stone. So what do the Phillies still need to do? Well, outside of figuring out whether they can add more to the outfield, they seem to be settling down their roster pretty steadfastly, I would say. I don't really see all that much that they need to change. We'll talk about the final little spots where they have availability to add or tweak as we continue today's episode. So what do the Phillies still need to do? It's a great question. And it's one that I've seen a lot of people talking about on social media and asking in the comments and everything. Some will be like specific questions about specific players, but are they finished? I saw someone put out an article, I'm sorry not to credit, but just saw the title as I was scrolling, asking if the Phillies were finished. And I was like, it's a great question. I'm going to give my thoughts. So what's left for the Phils to do? Number one is still JT Realmuto. You do not have a quality Major League Baseball catcher on this roster right now. You need to do that. It needs to be JT at this point. That's just reality. You guys can complain about age and length of contract and how many double plays he hits into all you want. He's the best option for this team. So would you rather cut off your nose to spite your face and just go with someone different who's going to be worse? Would you rather see Garrett Stubbs and Rafael Marchand share opportunities behind the plate? Or would you rather just go with JT Realmuto? Because I'd rather just go with JT Realmuto. So that's the number one priority. But once he's signed, well, according to Dombrowski, you're pretty much set roster-wise. You could add one more bullpen piece, or you could add another starter as an insurance policy to Zach Wheeler, though Taijuan Walker is still a member of this team. So, I mean, he's going to be here. Could he fill in that role in the starting rotation? Absolutely. So you might not add another bullpen arm, maybe just some guys on minor league deals that could be brought up in case of injury throughout the season, because we know that always happens. So bullpen's pretty much good to go. The real thing that you're going to want to watch for the Phillies to do over the coming weeks is trades. After the JT Realmuto thing, which is priority number one, priority number two is probably finding somebody to take Nick Castellanos. Apparently, there are some teams out there, according to reports, they're like, we're not taking Nick Castellanos at any price. And they have cited fielding for that as the reason. Because obviously the bat, he still has stretches where he is an elite hitter of the baseball. Is it as consistent as people in Philadelphia would like it to be? No, but we want everyone to go yard every time they step to the plate. Nick Castellanos is still a valuable baseball player, I think. But apparently the market is just like non-existent for him. So how aggressive are the Phillies willing to get in trying to move on from Castellanos? Well, notice Dombrowski didn't really mention him in the plans for the outfield going forward. So this is the most the least well-kept secret in baseball right now is that the Phillies want to trade Nick Castellanos. But will there be any takers? Then you got to look at, hey, is there something that's going to happen at third base? It seems a little late in the process to trade Alec Bohm and then all of a sudden go sign Munetaka Murakami or Okamoto out of Japan or Alex Bregman. It feels late for that to develop for the Phillies, especially with Schwarber signed and 2 other contracts given out. So I don't expect that to happen. Marsh was mentioned as a platoon option with a right-handed bat in left field. I doubt he's getting moved. Maybe the Phils could do something with Bryson Stott if they want to make a move at second base. Bo Bichette has apparently started telling teams that he'd be willing to play second, but that would be a hefty price tag that I don't see the Phillies paying. The Ketel Marte rumors are still out there. Who knows where he gets moved? Could it be the Phillies still? Yeah, I guess so. I mean, they're still being mentioned in the conversation when Ketel Marte pops up. But as far as free agency is concerned, the Phillies are probably going to sign JT Realmuto and then a couple of guys that you've never heard of before to be minor league contract arms, and then they're going to roll with that. And then if they're going to make any other changes to the roster, it's going to be via the trade. And that's where Dave Dombrowski really has to get creative, because it's not just dollar amount, years, come to Philadelphia. It's, hey, we got to give stuff up. We got to get stuff back. We got to figure out if the contract works. We got to convince other teams. That's much trickier than just free agency. Trades are harder to do than signing, so it could take longer. And that's also not something where there's the pressure of hey, we need to get it done now. Free agency, there's a lot of other people bidding for these players and other teams that are constantly in the mix. And spring training is a perfect example of a deadline date where you'd like to have these guys signed by. They don't have to be, but if you're not signed by the start of spring training, well, chances are your market isn't great and you either need to change the price or you're not going to be playing on a team this year. So trades can happen in spring training, early on in the season, throughout the season. So there's a lot of stuff that could happen that doesn't exactly put the same urgency on other teams when it comes to trades as you do with free agents when it comes to signings. So that's what the Phillies have left to do. It's not a bunch. I know I just talked for about 10 minutes about the different options and things that they could do, but I'm just running through the potential scenarios. As far as what will they do, here's my prediction for the remainder of the Phillies offseason. I would predict that they do not re-sign Harrison Bader based on Dave Dombrowski's comments, even though I don't think that's off the table. My guess would be that they don't. They do re-sign JT Realmuto. They sign a couple of minor league contract arms, and they trade Nick Castellanos for a bucket of baseballs and roll into the season with the outfield as Otto Kemp, Brandon Marsh platoon, Justin Crawford in center, Adolis Garcia in right. I know I just said don't necessarily believe Dave Dombrowski, but when he says that, I have to lean to that side. So that's how I see it playing out. Now, here's the thing. We're going to have our off the poll segment on Friday's episode. And I'm going to put this out on Twitter for you to respond to our poll question for this week. Have the Phillies done enough this offseason to make you confident in their ability to contend for the World Series? Simple yes or no question. Complex answer. So we're going to talk about that in the final segment on Friday's episode, but I'll put that poll out for you to respond to on X. Other than that, we're going to just keep our ear to the floor and see if we hear anything as far as rumors, or maybe we'll get another move. I mean, this is a busy time of the offseason, so JT could be signed by Friday's episode. Harrison Bader could be signed either here or somewhere else by Friday's episode. So we'll keep you updated on all the big news that breaks for the Philadelphia Phillies. But that's all for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff that really helps us out, helps you out, helps everybody out. And I will talk to you Friday on our next episode.